Welcome, everyone. If you've attended one of our webinars before, welcome back. We're happy to see you again. And if you're new, welcome. We're excited you found your way to us and to our sessions. I just want to preface that if you have been on one of our webinars before, you do know that we have a very prescriptive way of going about webinars. We generally have slides, we go through those slides. Today, this will be a little bit more of a conversation with Ashlyn and Ashley, really to go through their day-to-day, their efficiency tips, and what they've learned in their years of in-house contracting and counseling. And we also will make sure that we send all of you the recording. We'll send you some more resources just so you are equipped to handle all of that. I'm Mary. I manage the brand and comms team here at LinkSquares, and I'll pass it off to Ashley to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Jones and I am commercial counsel here at LinkSquares. Been here about a year and a half and very excited to discuss efficiency hacks with you today.
Thanks, Ashley. Ashlyn?
Awesome. My name is Ashlyn Donahue. I'm the director of legal here at LinkSquares, and I'm really excited about this topic. I have a background in operations and moved into that space earlier in my career so that I could get that context and scope for how to hack efficiency and create more scalable processes for legal teams.
Awesome. Thank you both. Excited to hear all about our efficiency hacks. Before we get too deep into that, though, I would really love for each of you to kind of go through, talk about what your day-to-days look like so we can really kind of set the stage, get a clear picture. Ashley, I'll pass it back to you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So as commercial counsel, I handle relatively all commercial contract needs, both on the buy and sell side. So definitely staying on top of our incoming contract requests queue on a day-to-day basis is where I spend the majority of my time. But with that being said, working in-house, things will come up. So staying on top of my calendar, Slack requests, and building in time to reflect throughout the day on those items is really important for my role because we've got to be flexible and attentive to the commercial needs across the business.
Awesome. Thank you.
So my day-to-day is probably a little bit less contract heavy than Ashley's is, although contracts are still a good chunk of the work and support I provide the business here at LinkSquares. But it could be anything. Mary, as you know, it could be a marketing collateral request for review. It could be a request from the revenue operations team just for a process initiative. It really runs the I once saw an image of tennis balls coming at an individual, like hundreds of tennis balls. And sometimes it feels like in-house that can be your day. You just never know where they're going to come from and how many you're going to get. And so really thinking about how you can create efficiencies and scale with technology, I think is key to managing the wide variety of tasks we might be asked to help out with.
And I'm not going to pretend I don't know how you manage all of your contracts. So I'd love to hear really the reasons that you find it beneficial and useful to use a tool and really how tech can help with all of those things that you're working on daily. Ashley, I'm going to start with you because of more of your contract work that you do day to day. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having a CLM and like single source of tech to start out with your day-to-day processes in terms of contracting is really crucial for efficiency because I'm able to go into the system, see what I've got in my queue, who's requesting it. I'm able to do a lot within the app in terms of running compares on agreements, seeing what things may need to be escalated in a timely fashion. And instead of bouncing from folder to folder within a network drive, I'm able to go to one place to see what I need and try to like start my day off on the right foot because I like to start off looking at my calendar, looking at Slack, looking at my queue, and finalize to really get my day started off on the right foot and understand what I've got to prioritize, what I need to block time off for, and being able to have that, I'll call it a single source of truth essentially for things that are incoming is really important for my own mental organization, but also for the business in terms of getting folks what they need in a timely manner.
Yeah, and how does that help build relationships in your opinion? I know you're just talking about getting folks things in a timely manner. How can you build on that?
Absolutely. I think having that the system to be able to communicate with stakeholders in lends to building trust in how quickly you're able to respond, how quickly they're able to get things, and for them to just know that their contract request hasn't been sent to some void that may or may not be looked at within a certain scope of time, to know
Mhm.
that we are really on the other end of where that request is being sent, I think really increases the satisfaction across the business and building that trust within stakeholders, and being able to communicate right there in app on the relevant request allows you to keep that communication flowing and minimizes that ping pong effect that might happen if you've got slacks, emails, other communications, you've got meetings, all sorts of things. Having one place to really house relevant communication is awesome, especially if you've got multiple approvers and stakeholders involved. They're able to see a snapshot of where things sit, current state, which minimizes the one-off reaching out, asking for updates, and being able to really streamline that communication and build that efficiency so that your time isn't spent hitting too many ping pong balls or tennis balls, sorry, Ashlyn, and you're able to really at least minimize it in that respect and build that trust with your stakeholders.
I think that centralizing and streamlining where you're working out of is a great way to start to think about creating efficiency across your team. Just gives that central cross team visibility. I know what everyone on the team is working on at any point in time, but it also unlocks the opportunities to create future operational enhancements and efficiencies outside of just like helping you work faster or have a better lens through which to work. My favorite part about any tech is the data that you can get out of it and the way that you can use that data to identify where you have opportunities to lean in to create further additional efficiencies. So, for example, if you have a CLM that you are using to process your NDAs, you can start to track like, why is my sales team requesting an NDA? Is it for an RFP? Is it for security information to be shared? Is it for, you know, proof of concept of our product? Like, whatever that case might be, you can start to really think about what it is they need that for, and then is there an opportunity for you to create a low touch no touch process that allows them to move quicker. So there's a lot of ways that you can think about enabling your team to have opportunities to share that information. Maybe it's a click through NDA that you can set up and enable, or something else through which you can support the team faster. And without that, it's a little bit of a finger to the wind like, hey, feels like we're seeing a lot for this, but you don't really know. And so, where are you going to invest that time to create those gains is a little bit of a shot in the dark. And it's much better to have that tool backing and that data backing to really make smarter decisions that are really targeted towards your long term goals of efficiency and scalability for your department and function.
Yeah, I'm curious, are there specific indicators that you look at for, deciding that something is better automated or outsourced, or how do you look at that? You mentioned obviously looking at the data a little bit, but are there other key indicators that you look for?
Yeah, I think the data really helps start that conversation and drive that conversation. But, you mentioned trust with your business teams and partnership with your business team. I think there's a little bit of once you have those relationships built and that backing built, you can come to the table with data and have conversations, not only like, where are you recommending that you invest time and create automation and scale, but what are they seeing on their side? You might both have different lenses through which you're evaluating the process or the at task at hand. So opening up the doors to have those conversations regularly, it's not a one and done thing. This is something that you should be checking back in at least quarterly or twice a year at minimum. But there's also, what are your business goals and objectives? So it's a little bit of factoring like, what is your company's overall goal for the year? What are your department, counterparts seeing? What are they looking for? And what are you seeing? And how can you marry all of that together to really hone in on where you should focus your efforts to create that scale? You don't want to just make process or automation changes and implementations just for the fun of it. Like, you really want to make sure they're going to have the impact, but that doesn't mean you don't get it wrong, right? Like, there have for sure been times in my life where I have rolled something out and been like, this is amazing. It's going to save us, 40% of requests are now going to be no touch from legal. And then that's not the case. And you have to go back and look at the data and say, like, where did I go wrong? But it helps you pivot quicker. It helps you adjust and innovate faster when you can kind of see where you did go wrong, where you had that hang up.
Absolutely. Do you have an example of something that you've worked on that has gone maybe not well, and then what you did to pivot to actually make it more efficient?
Yeah, so one of the things that at a point in my career I looked at was like some data. What are some common things that are coming in the door that are frequently getting approved? Like, where can we flow down the ability for whether it's your business teams, if you're using your paper on the vendor side, or your sales teams to make those changes self-serve through automation, right? Maybe it's governing law that you want to have some approved fallback positions. Maybe it's some fallback positions on your assignment clause. And looking at those in silos can really tell a very different story versus if you look at them together. So if you're like, okay, if I enable them to change governing law to one of these three states, it's going to reduce my deal flow to the legal department by X percentage. But maybe you're forgetting the fact that they always ask for an adjustment to the affiliate clause, or most often as well. Or maybe there's something else that you see together. So if you're making like incremental changes without looking at the whole picture, you might tick off a few of them, but if you don't address the larger scope of like where there are buckets and things that come together often as requests, you're really not gonna make much dent in what you're trying to do there. So really stepping back and thinking about the full scope of the lens through which you're looking at the data, and are there relationship dependencies, and then making proposals based on that.
And what success came of that, do you think?
One, learning how to look at data better. But two, I think the success that I would take away from this is that we really did have strong partnerships with teams, and we could step back and
Mhm.
say, okay, what do we see here? Like we kind of thought that we were going to hit this, we're not. Why? And pivoting. And I think that that's just going back to like those strong partnerships, willingness to innovate, and continuous check-ins. You can't just hack efficiency and create scalability in one go at it. There has to be incremental process improvements and changes over time. And what works for you today may not work for you tomorrow. So it's really just honing in and leaning into that like willingness to be flexible, willingness to partner, and willingness to take in feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That's really helpful and leans on our next point of actually like breaking down those silos, improving communication and collaboration, not just within your function or your team, but really across the organization. And I know, Ashley, something that you work on, a team you work very closely with is sales. So I'm curious about kind of your communication style and kind of how you've found or what you've found to be most effective in breaking down those silos and working with other teams.
Absolutely. I think it's two-pronged. One is, of course, really reflecting on your own communication style and honing into the strengths and maybe areas where you might need to grow a little bit and be more flexible. I like to communicate with the sales team in a way that informs them a little bit about the reason behind my decision making, so that they're not just hearing no's or yeses. They're getting more information and are going to be able to understand some of the why behind what's going on, and lean into being a really strong partner with legal as we go into some of these
Mhm.
negotiation calls, or making some decisions that may on their face feel um, like they could be a blocker, but really what we're doing is protecting the business, and building a stronger partnership with our soon to be customers and our prospects. And then on the flip side of that, understanding that everyone that you're communicating with has a different communication style, has a different ability to digest certain information in certain ways. So being able to connect with them and build those kind of interpersonal skills and communication nuances with them on a one-on-one basis that may not actually be around the contract we're reviewing. Like just being around them, maybe doing a walk around the sales floor, having some more casual conversations, and making yourself available to touch points that are not directly driven to a task that's come through your door, because then you're
Mhm.
able to better understand how to communicate with them, what needs that they have, and you're building trust at the same time, which I think is really key, because then they're not just coming to you when there's a problem. They're coming
Mhm.
to you to bounce ideas off of you. I mean, we are users of the product as well. So really making it clear that we're business partners and that our partnership is also through building collaboratively on our communication styles collectively.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that's made things maybe evolve more quickly? How do you think that's actually sped up processes?
It definitely has improved things and built some efficiencies in processing. Even like we can even look at like specific contracting examples. If they're commonly negotiated clauses like limitations of liability and indemnity, and you've explained your positioning to your sales counterpart, and they maybe get an email from the prospect that's highlighting a specific issue, they're able to better understand the issue, and sometimes they're able to field it on their own or help you in your strengthening your position when you're going back to the prospect, so that it's really building upon the position and it's coming off as a collective positioning versus, oh, legal saying X, Y, and Z. So sometimes we can get a request and they're able to really field it and handle it. And like I come in with the slam dunk to to close it in like a 5 minute call versus a 30+ minute call where there's a lot of tension and friction. And I think that that really improves efficiencies, and we're able to tackle like the really big items on calls and negotiations, and being able to come collectively to a negotiation like that, whether it's with sales or with our marketing counterparts, is really helpful and speeds up things for both parties involved.
Yeah, I'm curious too, and this is a question for either of you. So with that time that you've saved, a 30-minute conversation down to 5, for example, do you think that that's opened up opportunity to work on more things, different things? How has that allowed space for other things? Ashlyn, I see you nodding.
Yeah, I think, look, that even just let's just pick contracts for a starting point, even just sales contracts. If you are a organization that is driven by revenue targets and goals that you have, you're often, really sales focused and really focused on supporting the sales organization. And oftentimes there are only a few legal team members that are supporting what could be a pretty large sales team. And so
Mhm.
really the seconds or minutes that you get back in your day allow you to shift and allocate your time towards other deals. Make sure that you can help get all of that done. But even outside of deals, it just extends beyond, to every other function and department that you have. Um, a minute back in your day is like a minute that you can shift your focus and maybe look at something that your marketing team has asked for assistance with, or maybe it's your customer success team. I really think that by allowing you to unlock the power that you have using technology, processes, and business relationships to make things move faster in the way that you need them to, helps you grow not only as a department and a team and scale your support of the business more efficiently, but also as an individual, right? If you don't have time freed up to do anything other than contracts, like you're going to largely be just doing contracts. But those minutes, those hours that you can take back in your day enable you to pick up other projects or other tasks within the department and start to grow your functional practice area, your skill set as well. So I think it's a little bit of both, not only in how you support the business, but also how you grow as an individual.
Mhm. Leaves a little bit more time for like innovation or, other opportunities within the business, it sounds like. Um, cool. So just to recap, we've talked about like effective communication, really helping streamline contracts. We've talked about CLM or contract management. Everybody's talking about AI. That's something we all know. So I'm curious if you have, and I'm assuming the answer is yes, AI like hacks that you have to also help with those day-to-day tasks, or just to like free up that time for the innovation, for kind of growing in your career, growing within the legal department. So it doesn't matter who starts, but I'm curious about your AI efficiency hacks that you have.
I can start off. So I am a huge believer that AI is going to really optimize the way that we work, and I think that AI is a relatively new, in the current form, right? Like, let's be clear, we've had AI for a long time, but AI in terms of generative AI and the power that it has to really support you as an individual has really become a lot more unlocked in the last 18 months to 2 years, let's call it. So For me, I really think like part of it is how am I going to use this, really taking time, even if it's slowing me down a little bit to help me speed up later down the line, to explore the ways that I can use AI to help us grow as a department and as a team. But also, how can I help it? How can I leverage it to make me work smarter? And so it could be as basic as like draft me a contract clause that allows, a customer to do X, Y, or Z, but also ensures that it's super clear that we are not permitting A, B, and C, right? That is time that in my earlier days of my career, I might have been searching online or looking at other solutions where you are getting optional clauses that you can use as starting positions, and I'd be tweaking it from there. And I might spend 15 minutes searching, or 15 minutes just taking a first pass to see what it looks like and then going from there. Now I can get a response in less than a minute. And it might not be what I want exactly. It might not align to the way that we want our contract or our drafting structured, but it's something, right? Like starting is always the hardest part. That's where I think you spend a bulk of your time. They always say when you're painting, it's like 90% of it is the prep work, right? And like that is sometimes true with the work that we do day to day as a lawyer. And, not saying it's going to necessarily shave off 90% of your time, but if it can shave off even 10% or 15% and help you move in the right direction, that's again more time back. It's enabling you to try new things, do things differently. And the last thing I'll just say on this is it's also just enabling to act as a tool in your tool belt to check yourself, right? And it could be I draft an email. Maybe I'm going to send you, Mary, I'm going to pick on you. I'm going to send you an email and I'm trying to provide you some feedback or input on a request that you had around some marketing collateral. And I want to make
Mhm.
sure that what I'm saying back to you makes sense. And so things that I love to ask the AI are like, what do you think this email says? Um, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very clear, how clear is my guidance if this is what I'm trying to say? Or grade my email. An F to A, where would you improve it if it comes back and says it's a C? Well, okay, what would make this email an A? And I don't always take it, right? Like sometimes it's too long. It's not creating those efficiencies for my partners.
Mhm.
I don't need to send them a memo. But sometimes it's like, oh yeah, that's a really good like thing that I could lean into and provide a little more clarity on. So just really using it to gut check you might save you some back and forth emails too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you hit on two things lawyers really struggle with combining, and that's our wordsmithing and our critical thinking, because those two together you'd think would be the perfect match made in heaven, but we can often overthink some of the things we want to write down, or like you said, Ashlyn, have trouble finding that starting point. And AI really allows you to speed up there to be able to get to the core and crux of what you're trying to communicate, as well as up leveling your communication skills, because once you get that feedback, you're able to translate that into other types of communication that you're putting together, or even other skills that you're looking to develop. And it's nice to have that touch point that's not readily available like day to day. If Ashlyn's really busy, we oftentimes might not have the time to bounce things off of each other and that starting point. So to be able to do that and flesh things out further and bring a more final set of communication or ideas is really helpful with AI. And then from the contracting standpoint, like some things in our tool where I'm able to like see summaries of an agreement or summaries of red lines helps me time a lot time throughout the day for reviewing certain things, because like Ashton said, we've got tennis balls coming from multiple directions, and if I have certain meetings on my calendar, I'm trying to review contracts throughout the day around those meetings. So to be able to pull up a summary to see like what are the big points that are within this agreement, I'm able to see, okay, is this one that I can do in 30 minutes? Is this one that's going to need more time? Is there something I can start now and come back to? Like, is there an escalation I can get out the door? And while they're working on that, can shift to this meeting that I've got, but I know I haven't not started anything at all. So I'm able to get the ball rolling on things and really able to allocate my time to be as efficient with the mental and physical space that I have throughout the day. I think that's really critical because I don't know about you, Ashlyn. There's nothing like thinking you've got I've got this great hour to do something. You open the thing up and it's like, this is going to take so much longer than that. And then having, um, not knowing that until you're deep into it, and then having to stop, shift to the meeting or the other thing, and having to like stress the brain out to do that flip flop, um,
Mhm.
is something that think AI is really great about, helping alleviate in terms of like the day to day contract review and time allotment.
Is there something that you've found to be, whether it's a best practice or just something you've done in the past, that helps you work on those higher impact business objectives or anything in your day to day or on a weekly basis, even?
For me, calendar blocking. And I'm flexible with the blocks I have. I'm willing to move them, but I hold myself accountable with those calendar blocks
Mhm.
for large initiatives that need to be done and focused. And really early planning. I was never the procrastinating type. So that's not in my nature to wait until like the day before finals to start studying. I was always like thinking about finals like the first day of the semester. That was just my way of building out my timeline, and I still think about it very much that way. And I put a lot of calendar reminders like, okay, you need to be at this milestone if you're going to hit this. And then if
Mhm.
it slips a day or two, like okay, but like, if I don't have that and project is due the next day and I'm like way behind, I've kind of missed every mark. It's going to be really hard to pick that back up. But the other thing I'll say is just like sometimes those things that cause all that context switching throughout your day, like your Slacks, your emails, your whatever it could be, if you can carve out some time. I really like the beginning of the week on Monday mornings, Friday afternoons, and then like once or twice in the middle of the week at the end of the day to really make sure you're going through and cleaning stuff out. It makes it much more concrete of like, okay, I know I have these time sets aside to go do this. I'm maybe not going to spend this time that I could be using towards this, like getting this project task done, checking my email or checking my Slacks. I can just focus in because I know I've carved out that. So the TLDR is time blocking is a huge hack.
Yeah, I love a good calendar block. It's super helpful. And I think the one thing I would add to that is making a list at the top of the day of, let's say, three things you want to accomplish by the end of the day. And that could be like maybe you've got some project deliverables you're working on, some research you want to do, some blog writing you want to do for marketing. Making that list of three things and making sure you carve out the time for those three, because we all know you move through the day to day, you get things done that come across your desk, but also kind of level setting in the morning and setting out your intention for the day helps you feel productive at the end of the day, to know what you have and haven't accomplished that you intentionally set out for. And then you're also able to keep track of what needs to be moved to another day and reprioritize, because you might not get to those three things, but you know that they're there and need to be done. And you're able to have that touch point with yourself on a daily basis, which really helps, for like the mentality portion of it, because everyone likes to feel accomplished by the end of the day and not like the day accomplished them, which often happens in fast moving roles and industries. So being able to impart some kind of control on that, I think, is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Who are these marketing people with all these requests? I can't imagine who that might be. Ashton, were you going to say something?
I was gonna say like one thing that I now that I did not earlier is really take a lens like maybe twice a year at all of the recurring meetings I have and
Mm,
challenge if I still need to be on them. So, I had my first child, I went on parental leave. I like cleared my calendar, but I found people to go to the ones that needed coverage, didn't show up to a few, and then came back and figured out like, okay, what do I still need to be on? And like my days went from being like 6 to 7 hours of meetings to like maybe three or four. And so it shouldn't take big, you know, life changing moments for you to take a pause and say like, okay, am I still providing value to this meeting, to um, this time that I'm spending going through that? And so really thinking through like, how can I also reduce the number of meetings I'm on that are recurring, but when I get invited to meetings, I'll sometimes say like, hey, can we handle this over Slack or over email? And then maybe grab 10 minutes instead of 30 if we need to hash out a couple things. And so really kind of challenging time spent in meetings. They're very valuable, and I love going to them, but making sure that we're optimizing that time.
That's a really good point. Absolutely. With that, I know we're coming up on time. Our time goes by very fast on these webinars. But really, my last thing is you each obviously do a lot of different things throughout your day to day, throughout your weeks and quarters, obviously, as well. So I'm curious, what do you do to stay sane? Obviously, like we've talked about AI, we've talked about tech, we've talked about calendar blocking, but beyond those things, what are you doing for yourself that helps you be more efficient and effective in your day to day?
Yeah, if you've been seen me at any conferences or any other webinars, you've probably heard me mention my deal button. It's something that I imparted early in my career as supporting a sales and commercial team because those hours can be long, things can be crazy. So I've got a 30-second dance button, and every time I we close a deal, I hit that button, I stand up, I move my body, I dance for 30 seconds. If I'm at home, the dogs are involved. The husband, if he's not on a meeting, gets called into the room, and it becomes this like mini celebration. But it gets your blood moving too, which I mean, the science is there on that one. But what it's also done is, I mean, I've informed the sales team about it too, and it's become this like focal point of celebration beyond other things within the organization. So I love getting a Slack from someone on sale saying, get your deal button ready. And sure enough, I do. And it's built some camaraderie and being able to bring my like fun, crazy energy side to the day to day makes me feel like I'm not separating the two of my, personalities, business and non-business. And it really invites and imparts fun and collaboration on that level, which has been a lot of fun. Maybe we need to do a branded deal button.
Ooh, I love that, Ashley. That's such a fun way to bring some joy.
I think Ashley referred to the fact that in-house lawyers can have long hours, and sometimes it's predictable, sometimes it's not predictable, but it can be cyclical. And I remember when I was first starting out, and after law school, someone said to me, enjoy the slow time. And I kept asking, I'm like, I'm bored. Give me more work. I need more stuff. And they're like, just enjoy the slow time, because when it's not here, you're gonna wish you had that downtime to breathe. And so really, I think my biggest takeaway that I've took me a long time to learn is like the work is always gonna be there. There's rare day that you clean out your entire to-do list, but kind of understanding like what is the priority level on this. Do I need to stay late to do this, or can I take this hour and go for a walk, go spend time with my family, whatever that is that you need to refill your cup so that you have that capacity to increase your level of support when those times call. I think that's so key, because you don't want to get to that period of time where it's like, okay, all hands on deck. It's end of month, end of quarter, whatever that is, and you're like, oh, my cup is empty. Like I've burned all my juice at the beginning of the month, when that should really be your time to flex if it's available to you. So um, just be mindful, prioritize ruthlessly, and make sure that you're accountable to like when you have that time that you need to ramp up, but take the space when you can.
Absolutely. Thank you both. Thank you for your enlightening information. Honestly, everything that we talked about today, I feel like transcends industries and roles as well. Even if you're not in legal, I do think that there are some tips here that you can take with you in your day to day. So thank you everyone for joining, and we'll send out the recording in the next 48 hours. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.